Hello, everyone. We'll now learn brush settings and usage. We'll start with brush settings. Today's focus is how to configure brush 19 for painting in Photoshop for beginners. Seeing experts get results with a few quick strokes can be misleading. It still requires solid fundamentals. Otherwise, it's not recommended for practice. Specialty brushes are mainly for rendering materials to create specific texture effects. Remember, software is just a tool. Improving technique matters most. Let's set up brush 19 now, before adjusting brushes. First, you need a drawing tablet or a pen display. Second, install the tablet or pen display driver. Otherwise, you can't set it up. Once these are ready, proceed. Step 1. Open window. Choose brush settings or press the F key. Step 2. Click brush tip shape on the left of the panel. Here you can set brush size, angle, roundness, hardness, and spacing. Size controls stroke thickness. Like this, drag the triangle right to enlarge. The further right you drag, the larger the brush becomes. Drag left, and the brush becomes smaller. Angle controls the rotation of the brush tip. You can type the rotation value here. For example, 90 degrees. Or rotate by dragging the small triangle inside the preview box. Roundness. This is the ellipse aspect ratio. At 100%, it's a perfect circle. Below 100%, it becomes an ellipse. You can enter 90. Or drag the two small handles in the box to adjust it. Hardness controls edge feathering degree. Let's enlarge the brush to see it. The higher the hardness, the harder the edge. Feathering degree is reduced. At 100%, there's no feathering or blur degree. At 0% hardness, feathering and blur degree are maximal. Spacing controls the distance between the centers of the two brush tip preview dots. Let's take a look. Set hardness to 100% first. Drag the spacing triangle to the right. The distance between the impressions increases. Drag left and the distance decreases. In brush tip shape, set brush 19 as follows. First, change the size to 19. Second, change the angle to 0. Third, change the roundness to 100%. Fourth, change the hardness to 100%. Fifth, change the spacing to 25%. That completes the brush tip shape settings for brush 19. Next, let's move on to item 2. Shape dynamics. Here we have size jitter, angle jitter, and roundness jitter. Let's take a look. Size jitter controls random variation in brush size. Angle jitter randomly changes the brush angle as you paint. You won't see much effect right now. But if we go back to brush tip shape and set the tip to an ellipse, then return to shape dynamics and drag angle jitter, you'll see the brush tip rotating. The brush marks will rotate along with it. Now, let's set it back to a circle. Next is roundness jitter. This causes irregular changes in roundness. Roundness means the ratio of the ellipse's axes. For example, let's increase spacing in brush tip shape first. Then go back to shape dynamics. Look at roundness. You can see some dots become ellipses, while others stay circles, and they change irregularly. Now, in shape dynamics, for brush 19, the adjustments are: first, set size jitter to 0%. Set control to pen pressure. Set minimum diameter to 0%. Next, angle jitter. Set it to 0%. Then roundness jitter. Also set to 0%. Reset spacing to 25%. Then go back to shape dynamics. The reason we set size jitter to pen pressure is so that brush size changes with pen pressure, smaller when light, larger when heavy. Like this, a light stroke produces a fine line. A heavy stroke produces a thick line. Next is step 4, transfer. Here, you can adjust two things. opacity jitter, and flow jitter. Opacity jitter means the brush's transparency varies randomly. Like this. You'll see dots with different opacity. Their opacity changes irregularly. Flow jitter works similarly to opacity jitter. But flow jitter doesn't darken overlapping strokes in the way opacity jitter does. Let's test it. Set flow jitter to 100% and draw. Now set opacity jitter to 100% and draw again. You'll notice clearly, opacity jitter causes big color variations, while flow jitter causes only slight changes. For the brush 19, set opacity jitter to 0%. Set the control option to pen pressure. Set the minimum value to 0%. In this way, the opacity of the brush will change with the pressure of the pen, becoming lighter or darker. For example, when you draw with a light stroke, the color appears very pale. When you draw with a heavy stroke, the color will become darker. Finally, the last step is to enable the smoothing option. This is used to smooth out the strokes. It makes the lines appear more rounded and clean. Like this. Once this step is finished, the full setup of brush 19 is complete. The next step is to save the finished brush. Click the Brush Settings panel. At the top right corner, you will see 4 horizontal lines. Click on them. Then choose the first option, which is New Brush Preset. You can change the name here. For example, I will rename it to Pointed 19. Then click OK. The brush has now been saved. When you want to find this brush later, select the Brush tool. Then right-click on the canvas. You will see the brush 19 that you just created. Here you can also find all the brushes available in Photoshop. That concludes the setup of brush number 19 in Photoshop. Next, let us move on to the usage of the brush. Today, we will focus on color blending. For example, when we draw a sphere, we can start with the elliptical marquee tool. Hold down the Shift key to draw a perfect circle. Then use the Paint Bucket tool. Choose a base color. For example, this one. Fill the selection. Keep the selection active. Then select again. Press Ctrl and D to remove the selection. Now deselect. Choose the elliptical marquee tool once more. Hold down Shift to draw a circle. Move your cursor onto the selection line. You will see a small dashed box appear. This allows you to move the selection. Drag it to the highlight area. Now choose a highlight color. Here, I will simply use white. Fill it with the Paint Bucket tool. Next, let us add reflected light. When painting reflected light, it must stay inside the sphere. So we need to hold down Ctrl and select the main circular layer of the sphere. Click, and you will see the selection outline of the sphere appear. Now choose the Brush tool. Right-click with your mouse. Select a harder brush tip. For example, this one. Then adjust the brush. Change its size. Paint the reflected light opposite the highlight. Now add the reflected light. Next, enable the Airbrush mode for the Brush tool. This will help create smooth transitions. Hold down the Altitude key. Sample the highlight color. Blend it along the highlight and slightly outward. This will make the transition natural. After blending, we notice that the highlight area has become too large, so we need to pick the sphere's base color again. Paint within the highlight. This will reduce the highlight area. Now it looks smaller. We can then pick a color between the highlight and original color to refine it. Once adjusted, we move on to the reflected light. Refine the transition of the reflected light. Make the airbrush smaller. Pick the sphere's base color again. Blend it gradually into the highlight. Now it is smoothed out. If the reflected light still looks too faint, we can brighten it slightly. Sample pure white. Lighten the reflected light. Now the sphere is almost complete, but we still need to add a shadow area. Choose a darker color. Enlarge the airbrush. Paint slightly above the reflected light. This adds shadow. Be sure to follow the structure of the sphere while shading. Now the sphere is complete. This is a simple method for creating smooth color transitions. Alright, that concludes today's lesson. Goodbye, everyone.